Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Crowd Chair Podcast. And today is going to be a National League. I just did the American League in the previous video, so now we're doing the National League. Of course, like the last one, I'll start with the East. By the way, you guys let me know because I've been using this mic now, as I feel like it picks up my voice a lot better than just simply me talking to the computer. Instead, I'm talking to the mic. I feel like that picks it up better. Also, most of the noise like around the house doesn't really pick up as much anymore, I would think, because it's just me talking into this mic here. So you guys let me know what you think. Do you like the mic? Do you like just simply me going with just the computer, talking to the computer? Let me know. Right now I'm gonna keep using the mic, but let me know what you guys like better. Anyways, we start with the NL East here. And our first team is the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta Braves are a pretty darn good team, guys. Atlanta has some good pitchers, also has some nice closers. They also have good hitters. So let's just get into their loaded lineup, shall we? Um, and that starts with Max Fried as the ace for Atlanta, pretty darn good pitcher. They also had Spencer Strider as a bit of a surprise from last season. He kind of burst onto the scene out of nowhere and really was very good for Atlanta. He had some really darn good starts. And so I think that's going to be a huge just random addition to put into their starting pitching rotation, along with still having Charlie Morton, Kyle Wright, and then I don't know who Jared Schuster is, but they still have Strider. They have Fried, Strider, Morton, and Kyle Wright, which is all pretty good. In terms of relievers, they apparently have Joe Jimenez. So that I'm not intrigued by at all. But they also have Kirby Yates, who has been through a lot of injuries, but has had some good years as a closer. They also have Dylan Lee. Then in terms of closers, they have AJ Minter, who will be taking over for the time being, with Rafael Iglesias currently out. That is normally their closer. They also had Will Smith, but Iglesias took over last season after they got him from the Angels in the trade deadline. Their catcher position is between two guys, Travis Darnaud and Sean Murphy. First base, they have Matt Olson. Ozzy Albies is back fully healthy at second. Third base is Austin Riley, another young guy who kind of just popped out of nowhere and started bursting onto the scene for the Atlanta Braves. Really good third baseman. Orlando Arcia is at shortstop. They used to have Dansby Swanson, but he left for the Chicago Cubs. And so Orlando Arcia takes over at shortstop. And then in the outfield, you have Eddie Rosario, Michael Harris Jr., or Michael Harris II, Michael Harris Jr., pretty much the same thing, I guess, because second is still Jr., because Jr., never mind. Michael Harris II, Ronald Acuna Jr., and then Marcel Ozuna is the DH. Obviously the Braves are good. I think they're gonna be a playoff team. Question is, how far will they go? And they are the defending champs last year. The farthest they could go is the second is the well, they lost to the Phillies. The Phillies, I think, beat the Mets. Or no, they didn't beat the Mets. The Padres beat the Mets. Who the Phillies play? Uh, no, I think actually it was the Braves that they played first. Maybe I think it was. But the or not Phillies, the Braves are a pretty darn good team. This is another division that's pretty top heavy. The bottom two teams are not. Well, they're certainly not. They're okay, but the other two teams are pretty darn good. So pretty hot top heavy division here. But the Braves are a really good team. I would very much expect to see Atlanta in the postseason and making a play for the National League championship. Next is the Washington Nationals. Are they as bad as the Oakland Athletics? I would say no. Are they much better? No. This is not a good team. They did actually sign Candelario, so they do have Candy. They also have Keibert Ruiz, Joey Meneses, who was actually pretty good, I think, for Mexico in the World Baseball Classic. Victor Robles, C.J. Abrams, Corey Dickerson. They have Mackenzie Gore actually in their pitching staff, who was a pretty good prospect for when he was still in San Diego. Of course, he got included in the trade for Juan Soto, and also when they got Josh Bell in that deal as well. Abrams was also a part of that trade. There really is just not much here for the Nationals. They're not a good team, and yeah, they're going to be at the bottom of the National League East. They're definitely going to be the worst team, and yeah, I mean, if they do better than if they even get close to 500, I'd be shocked. But the Nationals not good. It won't be a good year for them. And then we have the New York Mets. The Mets actually are a good team. And I was talking earlier in the previous video about Edwin Diaz in the World Baseball Classic, and that there were two major injuries. The one was Jose Altuve with the fractured thumb, getting hit by the pitch, and Edwin Diaz was the other one. He tore something during a celebration when they, I think, beat the Dominican Republic. Or no, he wasn't. He was not. Well, I think yeah, he was Venezuela. He tore something during a celebration, and now he's expected to be out for the season. So yeah, that hurts. They still have a lot of really good a lot of good relievers. Believe it or not, they still have Robert Robertson, and Adam Ottavino, which are two very good pitchers to have as relievers. In terms of starters, you got Max Scherzer and JV. Which both ex-Tigers. I miss you guys. I really wish you could come back. But both of those guys, the top two pitchers, of course, they let DeGrom go instead, got JV. They also have David Pederson and Carlos Carrasco, along with whoever Kodaya Senga is. I guess that's how you pronounce that. At catcher, they have Omar Narvaez. They do have a huge prospect at catcher. We'll see if he comes up this season. Many people believe that he will. He's one of the top prospects in baseball. Many people think that he will probably eventually come up for the Mets and be the future catcher, of course. In terms of the rest of their team, they have Pete Alonso at first, with Jeff McNeil at second. Third, Eduardo Escobar, and then at shortstop is Francisco Lindor. Good infield overall, and then the outfielders are Mark Canha, Brandon Nimmo, and Sterling Marte, with Daniel Vogelbach as the DH. Mets are pretty good. It's always going to depend on health for them. Max Scherzer's had a long history with injuries, so Max Scherzer actually staying healthy would be nice. Having JV, of course, is really nice too, but they would like for their pitchers to for Scherzer to actually stay healthy, and for Carrasco to stay healthy, and like their entire pitching staff to stay healthy. They've already lost Diaz, so they're not off to a good start. But overall, Mets are a pretty darn good team. They have some pretty darn good players. I would expect good things from New York Mets, and I'd expect them to be pretty darn successful this season. Next, we have the Philadelphia Phillies. And the Phillies, of course, had that pretty awesome run to the World Series just last year, of which they lost to the reigning champions of the Houston Astros. But they, instead of backing down, they went all out, and they went for literally anything and everything that they could find in free agency. And their starting pitching is mostly the same. Aaron Nola, their ace, with Zach Wheeler, the 2. Taiwan Walker, they take from the New York Mets as the 3, and then Ranger Suarez at 4, along with Bailey Falter, whoever that is, at 5. The relievers are pretty darn good as they have Jose Alvarado, uh, Detroit's very young Gregory Soto, and then currently listed as the closer is Craig Kimbrell. Now, he did not do too well with the LA Dodgers, but maybe he regains form in Philly. If he doesn't, they always have Gregory Soto, so they're pretty set up in the closing room. JT Realmuto as the catcher. Uh, don't know who Derek Hall is, but he's currently listed as the first baseman. They also have Bryson Scott in at second, along with Alec Boehm at third, and then their enormous off-season signing, Trea Turner, now at shortstop. Huge addition for the Phillies, and he exploded in the World Baseball Classic. He was awesome for the USA, so that obviously is going to be nice for the Philadelphia Phillies. Kyle Schwarber in left for the Phillies. Not I don't know if maybe we'll know this, but I'm not a big Kyle Schwarber guy. I mean, he does hit a lot of homers, which is always nice. I mean, the guy hits near 40 homers, it seems, a year, but he also hits about 210, which makes him pretty much just homer or bust. And I mean, home runs are nice, but if you're literally just striking out or hitting home runs, I mean, I'm not the biggest Kyle Schwarber guy. I mean, I know a lot of people would say, well, that's what Javi Baez does, and you love him. Yeah, that's true. He does tend to do that, but he's not nearly as bad, I would say, as Schwarber. But Schwarber in left. Brandon Nimmo in center. Or not Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Marsh in center. Uh, Jake Cave. Okay, Jake Cave in right field, and then Nick Castellanos is the DH. Um, Phillies are pretty good, and they'll be another team that will be competing for the NL East. They'll be one of the teams jockeying with the Mets and the Braves. They'll be the third team that will be fighting for that division, and should be interesting to see which one of those teams comes out with it. Overall, they're a solid team. We'll see. Like I said, we'll see how it goes, but overall, they're a solid team. And they could very well make a run to the World Series yet again with now Trea Turner. And now we go to the Miami Marlins. And while this team is nowhere near as bad as the Nationals, this team has no chance at the division. But maybe they could get lucky and get a wild card spot. But that'd be pretty lucky for them with how nasty their division is. As their starting pitcher, oh yeah, that's who won it. Their starting pitcher is, I would assume he won it, is the reigning Cy Young Award winner from the National League, in Sandy Alcantara. Yeah, this guy is disgusting. He is very good. He is incredible. And then the rest of their pitchers: Jesus Luzardo, Trevor Rogers, Johnny Cueto, and then another prospect, Edward Cabrera. I think they have a couple other prospects still at pitcher, so a lot of young guys coming up in that area. Don't know any of their relievers except for Matt Barnes, who's the former Red Sox closer. They have Jacob Stallings at catcher with Garrett Cooper at first. Yuli Gurriel is actually the reserve there, so we'll see how much playing time he gets. Luis Arias at second base, coming over from the Minnesota Twins, burst onto the scene for the Twins, having some incredible games. Actually, he was very good as he ended up, I think he actually led the American League that season in and batting average. He had the best batting average in the entire American League, which obviously is pretty good. He's not really a home run hitter, but he did pretty well in the World Baseball Classic for Venezuela. He had like 2 homers against the USA, both of which looked pretty darn good. So Arias maybe working on that power. I think that's a huge addition for the Marlins. and we'll see if Arias can keep it up in Miami. And third, they have a good veteran in Gene Segura. Has obviously when he was younger, he had a bit of an injury history. I still kind of does, but good veteran overall. Shortstop is Joey Wendell, and then the outfield you have Jesus Sanchez, Jazz Chisholm, of course. Very good player. Also has had injury issues. And then Avisail Garcia with the DH being Jorge Soler. I think Miami has a ton of potential. They have a lot of young guys. They're overall. I'd say this is a. I think this would be a. I think this is a team that a lot of people are gonna overlook, but I think Miami can really could make something happen. This is not a terrible team. They have some good players. They have decent pitchers. And overall, their team's just not brutally bad. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami turns some heads and surprises some people. So next we go to the NL Central, starting with the Milwaukee Brewers, who obviously are. Oh, well, I wouldn't say obviously, because St. Louis is in this division too. But they're obviously one of the top two teams in this division. And they have a pretty good team, really. As a starting pitcher, they have a nasty 1-2-3. 1-2. They have a nasty 1-2 punch with a possible third devastating pitcher. With their nasty 1-2 of Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. And then their third pitcher is Freddie Peralta, who, when healthy, has been good, but has had a lot of injury problems. So many people questioning whether he will end up staying as a starting pitcher. They also have Eric Lauer and Wade Miley as their other two starters, which are both solid. The relievers, Matt Bush is okay. I don't really know the rest of the names, but of course their closer is probably the most devastating closer in the league, and I know that's saying that. I mean that's and that's hard to say because there's a lot of really good closers, honestly, but I have not seen anyone with more disgusting pitch than this guy, and that's Devin Williams. As obviously he has a changeup that I mean they don't even know what to call the pitch because it's not really a changeup. They just call it an airbender because they don't even know what else to say about it. I mean, outstanding closer. I would arguably say he's one of the best. Well, I'd arguably say he is the best in the MLB. Amazing closer, and the fact that one time Milwaukee had both him and Josh Hader is terrifying. But now Hader's gone, of course. He ended up going in a trade to the Padres. Now he's their closer, and he's going to be a lethal closer for them now. But and the rest of this team for the Brewers, they have William Contreras, who burst onto the scene for the Atlanta Braves. He came up for Atlanta, and he really looked really darn good for the Braves. And they already had Travis d'Arnaud, and so they didn't really know what to do. They kind of like started splitting between the two because, I mean, William Contreras, he played so darn well. He got to the All-Star game as a backup catcher. And that's really because some of the catchers just aren't very good, but still, to make it to the All-Star game is pretty impressive, and that means you have to be good. And yeah, I mean, he played really well, and so now he'll get a starting chance in Milwaukee. Then you also got Rowdy Tellez at first with Brian Terang at second. I don't know who that is. Luis Urias at third. Willie Adames at shortstop. Very big home run or bust type guy there. Left field is a player who is Christian Yelich. Of course, Christian Yelich has had All-Star seasons before, and has been, a NL MVP because he's been that good. But he's had a couple injuries that have kind of set him back, and he hasn't really regained form still. Now, last season he was still actually decent. I think he hit about 250. He didn't have nearly as many homers as he normally does, and he was decent stealing bases as well. But he's not really the same guy. Um, And so obviously the Brewers are really hoping that he can regain his MVP form. And then you got Garrett Mitchell at center, along with Brian Anderson at right field. Not Brian Anderson on NBA TNT in the 2K games. Outfielder Brian Anderson. And then at DH, you got Jesse Winker. Uh, Brewers are good. It's always going to depend. It's going to depend on the hitting. Guys like Christian Yelich, William Contreras is a nice addition. They have Luke Voigt as a reserve. It's another guy who can hit, but also doesn't stay healthy. Uh, it's just going to depend on all their hitters and if they can get points on, or not points, if they can get runs on the board. Uh, so we'll see for the Brewers, but their pitching is still as disgusting as it was before, and it's still very good. So for the Brewers, they're a pretty darn good team, but they definitely still need some work. Yeah, that sun's really getting annoying. Um, Next, we have the Chicago Cubs. Let me see if I can actually reach that. But the Chicago Cubs, they made some additions in the offseason as well. And so they have a couple nice players on their team. And so, they made some free agent signings. Let me do this for a second. So they made some free agent signings, and they have overall a decent team. Okay, that's gonna be better. But they made some nice additions during the off season, and with guys like Dansby Swanson, they signed him from the Atlanta Braves, and then they also from the they also signed from the Dodgers. They got Cody Bellinger, who of course Bellinger's had some really good years in the past. He's the other big time player who has had MVP years and has been set back by injuries as well. They also have Trey Mancini, who is another guy who played pretty well for the Baltimore Orioles. Hasn't really been as good since then. They also have Eric Hosmer, who's another guy who has had good years in the past, but has not been the same year. So the Chicago Cubs, and they also have Michael Fulmer as their closer. My goodness, they have a lot of comeback candidates. And then in terms of starting pitching, they have Marcus Stroman, Jamison Tyon, Kyle Hendricks, Justin Steele, and Drew Smiley. Okay, they need starting pitching. But this is an interesting team because of how many comeback type guys they have. They have so many players who all are like older or have had really good years in the past and haven't been able to live up to the hype since then. I mean, Eric Hosmer, Cody Bellinger, and Trey Mancini, those are all players. Oh, and their catchers, Jan Gomes. They also have Tucker Barnhart as a backup. But, Mancini, Hosmer, and, Mancini, Hosmer, Bellinger, and Mancini, or I said Mancini twice. Mancini, Bellinger, and Hosmer, those are all guys who have had really good years before, and since those few years, or for Mancini that 1 year, just haven't been able to really regain it. And then the Cubs still have the rest of the team that they had from pretty much a year ago. Um, and they also, like I said, they also signed Dansby Swanson, who had played pretty well for the Braves. I'm sure he'll play well for the Cubs as well. Um, this Cubs team, I mean, there's definitely some holes. There's definitely some work that still needs to be done. But I'd have to say the Cubs are an interesting team. They're gonna be they're gonna be an interesting team to beat. They have a lot of good players, and I'm curious to see how the Central handles them, because I mean the Central's not necessarily strong at all. I mean the Brewers are a solid team, but they can still be had. St. Louis is solid, but they can still be had. I mean, well, St. Louis is probably the best team, but they can be had. The Brewers can be had, and the other two teams are not even that are bad. So the Cubs are in an interesting spot. That's another team I'd say to watch in the National League as a sleeper type team. A lot of comeback candidates, so it either will go very well or very poorly for Chicago. But next we have the Cincinnati Reds, and this is a team that has a lot of young pitchers coming out for them. With their top three guys all being top prospects from previous years, and all being like 23, 22, and that's Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Graham Ashcraft. All of them very, very young guys. And their closer actually is Edwin Diaz's brother, and Alexis Diaz. So they have a lot of young guys in terms of starting pitching, and then Edwin's brother as the closer is pretty nice. Joey Votto is at first. Tyler Stevenson, uh, not special in my opinion. Jonathan India at second. Spencer Steer at third. I don't know who that is. Kevin Newman at short. Don't know who that is either. TJ Friedel in left field. Will Benson in center. And then Will Myers at right field with Jake Fraley as the DH. There's not really much for this team. They're a young team. They're obviously rebuilding. They're going to be rebuilding for a while. They don't really have much left. So the Reds, they're not good. And they're not going to be competing. So I wouldn't expect much out of Cincinnati. Um, I won't say they're going to be one of the worst teams because I think they'll be better than that, but they're not going to be good. I don't really see this team being all that, impressive this year. I think they'll struggle. And then we go to now the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I've actually been to their field as well. PNC Park is pretty neat, especially because of the view in the background. But their team overall is decent. They have Ronzi Contreras, I believe that's one of their prospects as their first starting pitcher, along with Rich Hill, Mitch Keller, Vince Velasquez, and Joan Avito. I don't know hardly any of those names. Don't really know any of the closers, but they're not closers, any of the relievers, but their closer is pretty darn good, and that's David Bednar. He's a pretty good closer. He was in the World Baseball Classic for the USA. I would expect that if they're not competing by the trade deadline, that he'll be one of the hotter names out there. Then you got Austin Hedges at catcher with Carlos Santana as the first baseman. Rodolfo Castro at second. Cabrian Hayes at third. And the enormous Onelli Cruz at shortstop. That guy is enormous. Brian Reynolds at left. Jack Sawinski at center. Andrew McCutchen returning to the Pittsburgh Pirates in right field. And then G-Man Choi from the Tampa Bay Rays takes the DH spot. The Pirates are not going to be a great team. They're still in rebuild mode. I would not expect this team to really have any success at all. I would not expect much from them whatsoever. Next, we have the St. Louis Cardinals, who actually I think had the best spring training record this year. So that's pretty nice if you're St. Louis. But overall, for them, they have a starting pitching lineup of a lot of older folks with Miles Michaelis, Jack Flaherty, he is the young guy in the pitching staff. but he has had many issues staying healthy. Jordan Montgomery at the third spot, Adam Wainwright, who miraculously hasn't retired yet, in the fourth spot. Glissom is out, so I don't know what's going on there. And then Jake Woodford at the fifth one. Um, Giovanni Giovanni Gallegos and Jordan Hicks are their top two relievers, with Drew Verhagen as the third one. And then their closer is Ryan Helsley, who played pretty well last year. In terms of hitters, they have some really good, really good hitters. Wilson Contreras replaces Yadier Molina, who retired this past season. He is now the new St. Louis catcher, which is a pretty good replacement if you ask me. At first, you have Paul Goldschmidt. Second base is Brendan Donovan. Third is none other than Nolan Arenado, who is by far one of my favorite players. He is unbelievably good. Shortstop is Tommy Edman. In left field is actually the leadoff man for Japan's World Baseball Classic team, and that is Lars Nootbaar. Uh, he's a decent player. Tyler O'Neill in center. Big time prospect in right field. Jordan Walker. Big things on that guy. I think he's like 3 or 4, and he's like the number 3 or 4 prospect in baseball. And then Nolan Gorman, the DH for St. Louis. This is a good team, and they're going to be right there with the Brewers. I would say. I think they're probably going to be the front runner for this division, but don't count out the Brewers. It's going to be it probably will be a two-way race. Ugh. Two-way race between St. Louis and Milwaukee. Maybe the Cubs, maybe every single one of those guys rekindles their old selves, and then the Cubs turn into a competitor. But I'd say Brewers and Cardinals are the clear top two dogs, and will be jockeying for that division all year long. And now we go to the NL West. And we start with none other than the LA Dodgers. This team is not what it used to be. Actually, this team has lost some guys. They have a lot of prospects still. They have a lot of guys that they can still bring up. And they have a lot of top prospects still. They have a catcher who will come out in about another year. They also have a pitcher who will come out likely this season. They also have a third baseman who's likely to come out this year, or well, versatile this fielder. They also have another second baseman who's likely to come out this season, along with another pitcher who's likely to come out this season. All of which, all these guys I'm listing. Here, there's a third guy. All these guys I'm listing are in the top like 50 prospects. And that last guy I saw was in the top 70. My gosh, there's another guy. Um, they have a ton of prospects who are yet to, come up, who have yet to, you know, take their place in the top. They have so many guys who are getting very close to making their way to the major league team. But in terms of the major league team itself, um, they're not necessarily fantastic at all. With their starting pitching has Julio Urias and Clayton Kershaw. Behind there is Tony Goslin, Dustin May, and Noah Syndergaard, who, yeah, he's a shell of his former self, and he hardly stays healthy too. In terms of closers and relievers, they have their closer is Brusdar Gratterall. Their relievers overall are solid. Their catchers are Will Smith and Austin Barnes. Clayton Kershaw normally pitches Austin Barnes, but Will Smith is the clearly better player. Um, Freddie Freeman is still at first base. Miguel Vargas plays over at second. I believe that's their prospect, if I'm not mistaken. That's yeah, it is the one prospect that they have. And they also have Max Muncy at third. He had a horrible season last year. At short is Miguel Rojas. Left field, you got David Peralta. Center is James Outman, replacing, of course, Cody Bellinger. Could be Trace Thompson too. I would not be surprised to see Trace Thompson getting in the starting lineup. Right field is Mookie Betts, and then at DH they actually have JD Martinez. So JD obviously can still hit. The Dodgers overall, I mean, they're a solid team. I mean, they'll make the playoffs, but I don't know if really a World Series, berth is in their future. They're a solid team still, and they're still gonna be good, but this is not the team that we have seen in previous years, uh, in previous seasons anyway. Next is the San Diego Padres. Now, this team I would consider the new Dodgers of the West. The Padres, you got starting pitchers of Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, Blake Snell, Michael Waka, and Nick Martinez. Of course, the big three are Darvish, Musgrove, Snell. Musgrove currently hurt, but they also have Waka and Martinez, as I said earlier. The closers, you got Robert Suarez, Luis Garcia, Drew Pomeranz, Steven Wilson, Tim Hill, with the closer being none other than Josh Hader. Obviously, that's incredible. Catcher, you got Austin Nola, who is okay. And then the rest of their hitters, you got at first Jay Cronenworth, Ha-Sung Kim at second, Manny Machado at third, Xander Bogaerts, a huge free agent free agent acquisition at short. Juan Soto remains in left field. Trent Grisham at center. Fernando Tatis will be coming back this season, playing in right field. And then you have Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter splitting the DH duties. Probably Matt Carpenter will play something like second base or something like that. I'm sure they'll figure out a way to have Nelson Cruz being a DH in every game, which just makes that lineup so devastating. That is a very good. Those are all incredibly good hitters. Or Carpenter plays in the outfield. They have so many options. I mean, that's gonna be a really dangerous team, and I think they're gonna be very tough to beat. That's one of my top teams, I'd say, this season. The Padres are scary, and they're gonna continue to be that way too. They're gonna be incredibly good. Watch out for them this season. And then right below them is the San Francisco Giants, and the Giants are not as good as they were years back. That one season when they exploded for like 107 wins, they have never really recaptured that. No Carlos Rodon for the Giants. He has moved on. They have both Rogers now. The Roger twins are now together, Taylor and Tyler Rogers, and they also have closer Camilo Doval, all of which are pretty solid. So I mean that's nice to have all three of those guys on the same team. Uh, and I think they might still have the other guy, but they have Camilo Doval as the closer. In terms of starting pitching, they have Logan Webb, Alex Cobb, Sean Manaea, Ross Stribling, and Alex Wood, all of which are decent. Catcher is Joey Bart. First base, you got Lamont Wade Jr., Thiardo Estrada at second, David Villar at third, Brandon Crawford remains at shortstop, and then in outfield, you got Jock Pederson, Mike Yastrzemski, Mike Haniger, and then Michael Conforto. Once again, the Giants are still a really old team. Um, Could they make a run for a wild card spot? Sure, but I can't see this team winning the division. Uh, and I would say San Francisco definitely is a solid team, and it's definitely going to be one of these California teams to win this division. Uh, I would say, well, probably one of these two to win a division, but they might be able to make a run uh, into the postseason and get to the postseason. Other than that, now we go to the Colorado Rockies, which is everybody's nightmare to play there, especially if you're a pitcher. But their team, you got Herman Marquez, Kyle Freeland, Jose Urena, Antonio Sen, Senzatella, and then Ryan Feltner as the pitchers. Not great. In terms of relievers, you got Brad Hand, Pierce Johnson, Denelson Lamet, and then the closer is Daniel Bard. Bard was awful in the World Baseball Classic, so I would not have much faith in that guy. Elias Diaz is the catcher, CJ Crone at first, Ryan McMahon at second, uh, Ella Harris Montero at third. I don't know who that is. Mike Moustakas is listed as the backup, so maybe it'll be him. As Kiliol Tovar at short. I also don't know who that is. Jurickson Profar in left. Randall Grichuk at center, and then Chris Bryant, of course, in right, with Charlie Blackmon as the DH. It's always hard for Colorado to win games because of their home field, which, with the incredibly thin Colorado air, makes it really easy to hit home runs. And, they never really seem to be able to get any pitchers to go there because, well, who wants to play half their games in Coors Field where home runs are, well, basically the thing there because that's the easiest thing to do. That's where pitchers would go to die at this point. So it's kind of hard for them to really get any pitching there. And then Chris Bryant was supposed to be a big signing. He hasn't really panned out. He also hasn't stayed healthy. And really, other than that, C.J. Crone and Jurickson Profar are really their best. Charlie Blackmon's good, but he's 38 by now. It's a bit of a mess for Colorado. They're not a great team, and they have kind of been like that for a bit in the MLB. And so it'll be a struggle for the Rockies. And then we go to the last team of all the videos here, and that is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are also not a great team, but we'll go over them. In terms of starting pitching, we have Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Madison Bumgarner, who's still playing, Zach Davies, and then Renee Nelson, or Ryan Nelson. Probably Ryan Nelson. In terms of relievers, you got Andrew Chafin, who goes from the Tigers to Arizona. Dre Jameson, Kevin Ginkel, Miguel Castro, and Scott McCullough. And then the hitters, you got Gabriel Moreno, who got traded, I believe, from Toronto to Arizona. I believe that was for Dalton Varsho. So Gabriel Moreno, young catcher, he'll take over in Arizona. Christian Walker, the first baseman. Ketel Marte at second. Evan Longoria at third. Nick Ahmed at short. And then the outfield, you got Corbin Carroll, I think who's one of the bigger prospects in baseball. Alec Thomas, who was one of the bigger prospects in baseball. He played for, I believe, Mexico this past year and was okay. And then in right field, you got Jake McCarthy. Kyle Lewis is actually the backup there. That's a interesting outfielder. And at the DH spot, you have Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Arizona that's actually a lot better than I thought they were, but this is still not a great team. I mean, Colorado and Arizona will probably just jockey for the bottom spot in the West. Um, I mean, they're not like I said, they're not nearly as bad as I thought they were, but it's still not. Oh, they have Mark Melancon too. I forgot to mention that, but he's currently out. It says. That's a reliever probably if you don't know. But Arizona, honestly, this is not nearly as bad as I thought it was. Um, but it's still not great. Maybe they get lucky and get a postseason run, but I don't see it likely. I could see possibly, closer to 500, I'd say, but that might be as close as the Diamondbacks will get. Other than that, their team just is not great, and we'll probably have a bit of some struggles. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's both baseball videos now, so both of those will be out there for you guys. And we should be having. We were going to do a bunch of college basketball videos, but that never really. I was gonna do it after the first and second round, but got busy, wasn't able to, and I haven't been able to do it this week either. So since I didn't do it the first time, basically what I'm gonna do is when the NCAA tournament does come to an end, I'm gonna just go region by region, go through, and then do the final four, just reviewing all the games at that point, um, and do it that way. So that's that, and like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you also enjoyed the other MLB video. If you have not seen that one, go ahead and watch that now. So until next time, adios, everyone.